This podcast is proudly sponsored by global talent partner, The Nudge Group. We're a disruptive force within the recruitment industry, helping founders grow their businesses from startups to unicorns. We're not just a recruitment company, we're a strategic partner offering a system known as the Nudge Experience to help you grow. Working with founders, investors, venture capital, and private equity firms, the Nudge Group helps you build your employer brand and tell your unique story to attract the top talent around the globe.
To get us started, can you tell us a little bit about your career background and your current role?
Sure. So my background is in recruitment, in tech recruitment. I sort of started in tech recruitment at a uni, wanted to start making some money to travel, and I sort of fell into it to an extent. And I was in tech recruitment for up until 17, 18, and then sort of moved roles as the company evolved that I currently work for into looking after people and culture. So I've been in this role for about 2 years, just a bit over. And my current role, I look after people and culture for a recruitment agency.
Which one?
Technology People Group. We have offices in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane, and I also work, alongside Olga, who works for Novon, and Novon's our IT consultancy business. So we've got two, businesses that sort of complement each other to an extent, and I look after people and culture for that.
Now tell me how you fell into recruitment, because everybody falls into recruitment and everyone falls in a different way.
Yeah, fall in is probably not as doesn't capture it quite that well.
Slipping?
So it was intentional to an extent. So I did a psych degree, and towards the end of my degree, I was thinking about going to organisational psychology. So I did a 3-month or so internship right at the end for Chandler McLeod, and it was specifically within the recruitment business, and I really enjoyed it. And I thought, you know what, I looked into it a bit further. I knew that it sort of fit with what I wanted to do with working with people, and I enjoyed sales. I had when I was back in uni days working in sales, I thought, it's a good way of using some of my degree to an extent, but also setting me up to go travelling. So that's how I fell into it. It's probably not the best way of describing it, because I know others that actually sort of just knew someone and just give it a crack. But I had some guidance to an extent with some of the lecturers that I worked with that sort of taught me at uni, and then had the opportunity to Chandler McLeod and had a bit of an insight, and then just went on to Seek or whatever it may be.
What did you enjoy about when you did your little sort of insight into Chandler McLeod? You said you enjoyed it. What was it? Because it was a short space of time. What was it that sort of captured you?
I like the fast pace and the culture of the office, that sales agency kind of vibe. I really enjoyed that. And just talking to different people. Every day was different. There was no element of sort of twiddling your thumbs and being bored. I like to be busy. I really do not enjoy any sort of downtime, I guess, when it comes to work. So, which some people may disagree with that, but I really like that fast pace. And you sort of got a bit of a satisfaction, I think, out of when you had that opportunity to place someone in their role that they really enjoyed. You build that rapport quickly. It made you feel good. So I thought, why not take it further?
And it can pay quite well, I guess, if you're about to go travelling. That can help.
Absolutely.
Where did you go, by the way?
I just went to Europe for 4 or 5 months or whatever it may be, when I was early 20s. It was a while ago now. But it was and it also set me up, I guess, to where I am now financially. So one of the reasons why I did stay in it, I guess, longer than maybe I initially anticipated to.
Yeah.
So
What made you want to move to the more kind of people and culture side of things?
So there's 2 reasons. When I left agency recruitment about 3 years into it, I decided I didn't want to do sales necessarily anymore and go into internal recruitment. I did that for about 6 months, and it just wasn't for me for many reasons. And I heard that the founder of our current business, or the 2 founders of our current business, were going to be starting this company, because we used to work together previously, and it was a no-brainer for me to join their business. I just genuinely like who they are as people, even though they were very, clear with me that it was a risk. It was a startup business. It is a big risk. For me, it just didn't feel like that. And I worked, obviously in the recruitment business as a recruiter for, must have been about 4 years or so, and had my first child. And I felt, to be a successful recruiter, I thought I needed to do it full time. I needed my full commitment. You do have, obviously, clients, candidates calling you regularly, and I tried it part-time after coming back to work after maternity leave, and I just felt I wasn't doing a good job of it.
It's so hard, isn't it?
It's really hard.
It's so reactive.
Absolutely. And I felt like, I can't give it my all. I want to be satisfied at my job. So I felt like I wasn't satisfied because I couldn't give it my all. And I needed to work part-time. So I had the conversation with the founder and thought, we were at a point then that we were growing, and I could see a gap. Someone needed to own people and culture for many reasons for us to get to where we wanted to as a business. And coincidentally, at the same time, they were sort of thinking the same thing. So it was a great marriage, I guess, so to speak, that I was, brought that to their attention, and they said, actually, we were thinking about you for that role anyway. So I wanted to stay with the company that I worked for, but I didn't want to do recruitment. So how can we make this work? And that...
It's so good that you asked, because I think there are so many people out there that get into a situation like that for different reasons, not just always children, and they don't ask because they don't think the answer will be yes.
Yes.
And then you just said that the founders are actually thinking the same thing as well. And then they go and find another job, and then they go to the founders and say, I didn't think, and they were like, no, and then you get this scenario. And I think that's something that,
Absolutely.
Talk about what made you feel comfortable, because I wish more people would talk to their managers, their founders, the owners of the business, whatever it is, about what they're thinking, because no one wants to lose a good staff member regardless, and they're always going to try and find a way. But so few people ever give their managers or business owners the opportunity. So what made you comfortable to do that?
I think the relationship I have with the company founders is going back to why I joined them. They're just genuine people that do listen to you. And I knew they valued my, input into the business. And so I felt comfortable to raise that without feeling like they were going to let me go, or they were going to just mistreat me, or there was never that sort of concern. And I have had the sort of, I guess, one of my values, if you don't ask, you don't get.
Yeah.
It's no, what have you got to lose? So, I felt comfortable enough to have that conversation.
So tell me now, obviously as a people and culture manager, how do you, and as companies get bigger and bigger, it's harder for people to approach the founders because they're usually disconnected to some degree. So how do you now, as a people and culture manager, when people would traditionally come to you about these things, how do you make them feel comfortable to be able to come to you to make sure that the same thing happens, further down as you get a bigger business? How are you going to make sure that your staff, when they're in the situation you're in, feel comfortable and don't go and find another job? How do you do that?
I guess right from the get-go, from induction, I really highlight what our values are, and one of them is we, not me, and that we are collaborative, and we're quite a flat structure, and it's not hierarchical in any sense. And I really, I guess, enforce the fact that speak up. Don't ever feel that you can't speak up. Another one of our values is challenge the ordinary. So always speak up about something that you might, a better way of doing something, or you're not happy with something. Always speak up. So I really make sure I highlight that right from the get-go. And I think in my own role, building relationships with each individual is really important for them to be able to do that. So I make sure I put time into that, because if I don't and I disconnect, then that situation could arise.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's, I guess, one of the key ways is really building the relationships with each individual. I've got that luxury, I guess, being a smaller business, only 25, 30 staff at the moment. So to an extent, I have that luxury. I may not in the future, and then I would have to readdress how I kind of ensure those conversations take place. I think the other piece that we do quite regularly within the business is ensure that those sort of career conversations are happening regularly with people leaders. So making sure that the staff have that relationship with their direct report is really important as well.
Yeah.
They are constantly, connected.
Okay, and if you follow on for that, another question for you, right? So you move into this people and culture role. You've obviously studied in that kind of space with the psychology and so forth. You've got some understanding of it. But you've also been in agency recruitment for quite some time and developed your own habits there. And then you've also had your first child, which is another head headspace change. How do you suddenly come back into a different role, and how did you deal with becoming effective at it, learning what to do, how did that happen? How did you go about it?
Transition.
Because it would have been a huge step.
And it still is, in all honesty. It's still a huge learning curve for me constantly. I think, when I first moved into the role, the multiple facets of HR, people and culture, so to speak, weren't as addressed by myself as they are now. So I sort of tackled a talent attraction first, which obviously made sense because I had years of experience in recruitment, and we were growing. So I was purely focusing on recruiting internally for our business. So, and then I guess as time's gone on, I've sort of looked at the business through that lens around attraction, retention, culture. What's important to ensure our staff do stay, do thrive, are successful. So I think that's just kind of happened organically over time. Meeting people like Olga and other people in my sort of people and culture network to bounce ideas off, to ask questions. It's just sort of grown over time. It definitely wasn't an instant bang.
No, I don't imagine. What's been the hardest part of it so far? I guess what's the biggest, most drastic thing you've had to change about?
For me, the hardest part was changing the dynamic between the company founders or my bosses.
Yep.
So previously, I was taking directions.
Yep.
Whereas now I'm questioning their direction. So
that's interesting.
Has changed. I found that really challenging.
I'll bet.
I still find it challenging.
So now, I'll bet.
Yeah, absolutely. I still find it challenging and learning ways to be more effective doing that. And I guess listening to my gut as well. That's taken time, but that's definitely been the most challenging.
Yeah, I can imagine. And have you enjoyed it? I mean, it sounds like it's still a journey that's got a long way to go.
Still a journey. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have enjoyed it because I think I've. Where I am now, I'm having a level of influence to where the business goes, whereas before I was taking more of a back seat.
So you've obviously achieved that biggest jump of them taking.
Yeah, I think only I would say in the last sort of 6 months maybe that I've been able to have those conversations, and it has really been more, again, me speaking out around what I need to be effective in my role.
That's great.
So again, having those honest conversations.
Yeah. No, look, it's great. I mean, if you think about when, and I'm a little older than both of you, but when I was growing up, it was very hard for anyone in people culture to have any influence over anything in the business. And I think that change that has happened over the last probably 10 years, I would guess, has been hugely positive. And I think it's something that continues to need to grow because there's so many people out there that say how important their people are and they don't necessarily live it. So it's great that you're doing that, I think. Yeah,
and I think it goes back to where we were as a business and where we need to go is having someone to own that, because how do we keep our good people if no one has their finger on the pulse?
Exactly right.
Totally. I think it was what we were just saying with Olga as well. Just even the last 12 months has been one of the good things for kind of people and culture and people realising just how important it is. Because, suddenly having everyone there and everyone's dispersed, and then what? Then how do we build culture? A bit like you're saying, it's obvious that the values that you guys have got, that you're really living them, and people need to see that because then they know it's okay, and that's how you kind of build it. But how do you start doing that when you're all kind of all over the place, or certain people are in, certain people are not? So
yeah, absolutely. I think the last 12 months is probably really add another facet or dynamic to the people and culture or HR role.
Yeah, totally.
What do you reckon has been the hardest thing in the last 12 months? Because, I mean, we all know what's happened. There's a lot of things that have happened, and there's the obvious ones. But what for you personally, and maybe you as a business, what do you think have been the two hardest things?
I think as a business, and I'm sure every company is the same, is that level of uncertainty and trying to you don't want to make false promises, so trying to get people comfortable to live or sit with uncertainty is really challenging. I think that's been one of the biggest challenges. I mean, and for myself personally as well, I think everyone's just being able to sit in that level of uncertainty. We're sort of obviously coming out of that now, but this time last year was
you know what? I find this fascinating. I want to talk about this a tiny bit more. This uncertainty thing. So I think if you actually look at where we were before COVID, everything was still uncertain.
Absolutely.
And it actually didn't get any more uncertain. It was just a different kind of uncertain. Yeah. And I think we'd settled into a repeatable pattern of uncertainty that we were comfortable with it. And suddenly the uncertainty was a different uncertainty and it threw everyone out. But the reality is, humans like certainty as a general rule, as much as they say they like surprises. They like to know.
They like to be things to be predictive.
And so we haven't actually changed in it. The uncertainty is the same. It's just different. And I find it fascinating how much it's affected the whole world. And maybe you can look at that from a psychology point of view, because I find it one of the most interesting.
Yeah, I've had a few chats with some of my just close friends, because a few of them in sort of leadership roles, and they were coming to me and were like, we're losing staff. People are just, am I a bad manager? Is that the problem? Attrition just seems to be, an issue in many industries. And, I'm asking them, well, what's the feedback that you've got as to why people have left? And a lot of it's to do with, the company's vision's not clear. There's no certainty on X, Y, Z. And it's, it seems to be a consistent theme across the board. This whole, a lot of my, friends are in these people leadership roles are saying, but we don't know what sometimes the vision is, and all the heads of the C levels sometimes to an extent don't know what the vision is, or can't articulate it, or trying to make the decision around what it could look like. So but I don't know whether people are using that as obviously as an excuse.
Maybe that is. I think it's just I don't know. I haven't had enough time to sit down and think about it, but it's one of the interesting things I'd like to spend more time doing.
I think it's as I said, it seems to be consistent, and definitely not a challenge that our business has had personally, or myself personally. It seems to be consistent.
Well, look at your industry. The recruitment industry is booming. Who would have thought that 12 months ago? Right? That's mad.
That's the crazy. A lot of the conversations I'm having with talent that we're trying to attract is people. Recruiters are having conversations now where they can dictate terms. With if you want me to work on your roles and find your talent, you need to pay the fee.
Yeah.
And I've never heard it to be like that.
Never. It did happen a long time ago. Again, we're showing my age again. Can we stop touching on subjects that show my age?
I joined recruitment industry when the GFC hit. So
yeah, okay. Just before that.
That's what people kept saying. It was so good a few years ago. I think great. I joined it when it's challenging, but I think that. It's been a really interesting 12 months.
Anyone now looking to get into recruitment or people and culture, what advice would you give them?
Wow, that's a good question. I've actually had this conversation with someone recently.
Or how about someone going from specifically recruitment to people and culture? Because there's quite a lot of recruiters, I think, who want to do that both internally and within recruiters.
And I think that a lot of recruiters that are just starting in their career want to jump straight into HR people and culture.
They think they can. For some reason, recruiters all believe they can do HR. I know I used to when I was younger, which is madness, right? Because it's not even remotely the same.
It's like one facet. But what I've said to a lot of recruiters that are just a few months in, give recruitment a chance first, because you will learn how to attract staff. And that is such a key element to be an effective HR or people and culture leader. So nail one of the crafts first. Yeah. And then you can evolve from there. At least then you've got that particular tool in your tool belt when you are having conversations about evolving your career. And I think to an extent too, is getting within the right company that might allow that to happen.
Yeah. And I guess on that then, so obviously you've gone into from recruitment, you know how to attract people, you've gone into people and culture. How do you build your skill set? Like, do you have go-to resources? How do you manage that?
I've been very fortunate to have a coach over the last few months, so that's helped me immensely. And again, meeting lots of Olga and I guess expanding my own network, speaking to my network around courses that would be relevant. I think that's a really key thing when it comes to courses, because a lot of people think education, it's something you need to do, but it needs to be relevant. Relevant education, relevant networking groups or podcasts or whatever it may be. I think for me personally, it's having conversations with the leadership team around what we want to achieve and having that open dialogue. A lot of HR leaders that I've spoken to recently that have been in the industry for so much longer than I have been, they all say a lot of it's common sense. There's a lot of technical aspects to the role, but a lot of it is common sense, and working with the leaders around how you can influence the people to achieve that, whatever that goal may be.
Common sense gets forgotten a lot in every asset of life, I think.
Yeah. Having the common sense within the context of commercial awareness.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's the same for most jobs. If someone said the same to me about marketing, I'd tell them the same.
Yeah.
I think most of it's just common sense.
Yeah. And having that, hearing that from someone who's in the industry that's been working in it for so long, I thought, okay, well, if I have that, maybe I can build on that.
Totally.
Yeah.
How much of your psychology background do you think you use? Because it's I don't know if that's something that's sort of used subconsciously or not.
I got to be completely honest here, that my psych degree, so much of it was, biopsych and a lot of the science aspects to psychology that doesn't interest me as much as, the more humanities aspect. Towards the end of my degree, we started doing more of that, so that interests me. But I've always been interested in why people do things and questioning their motives, and I'm very analytical. I'm just like that as a person. So that's why I did a psych degree anyway. But I wouldn't say I'll go, I take that theory and apply it to this situation. It's more that I did the degree because I enjoy, understanding how people do things. But the degree was a while ago. So it was over 10 years ago. So a lot more than that. So it's almost 15 years ago now. So it's not as
Was there any education that you did find that was relevant, and was it? How do you work out what's relevant? I guess because people in culture is different in every industry and every domain.
That's
and
right,
so forth,
exactly.
and size of business. So, what did you do? I guess that you found the most useful. That's perhaps accessible to a lot of different people, so it's maybe got a wider scope as opposed to being quite specific. Is there anything in particular?
I think the most important thing, it's not so much around the courses that you do, it's the network you have.
Okay, interesting.
That's for me and that's something I think that I've learnt from doing recruitment. It's really who you know is going to create a lot of opportunities for you. So I think it's more building your village than taking going to a certain
I've not
course.
heard that expression
Building
before.
a village?
I like that expression.
I love that expression. Build a village. You can't. People make your experience. So I think building your own network or village is really important to building your own success. And
that's an awesome statement. I like that.
Yeah. And I think it's what we were saying before we started recording, the fact that you can just go to Olga and just be like, hey, I've had these ideas and this is how I think I might fix it. But being able to bat that around with people that you really respect and they're great at what they do, and just being able to do that, you're going to come up with great outcomes.
Exactly. And I think one of the, maybe there's an element of naivety to it, but I thought when I first started stepping into this role a couple of years ago, I had to study. That was my first sort of thought. But really, finding that network is what's helped so much more.
How have you found your network?
Being a recruiter, I know how to use LinkedIn quite well. I know how to, have the conversations. Look, there's a few through my kids that their friends' parents that are in HR or employee engagement, and I just happen to have conversations with people that be in that industry, and I just pick their brain. Had the opportunity, pick their brain. What's worked for them? What podcasts again they listen to? What articles have they read? What have they found effective? Yeah. Just having those conversations, right? So you're not wasting time, I think, as well.
Yeah. That's a really good. And you mentioned you got a coach now, right? So last couple of months, was that? I'm just intrigued. I have a feeling I know the answer. Was that your idea, or was that your founder's idea?
Yeah, it was actually the founder's idea, in the sense that the introduction was the founders. I've always, having a coach was something I knew I needed. Yeah. But we, as a business, we have been collaborating with a couple of businesses that complement what we do to expand our network. And I was introduced by this person through that collaboration. That they asked us it's a perfect opportunity, it's a perfect person to...
How long has it been going?
Since Jan.
Since Jan, so what, 4 months?
Yeah,
4 months?
Yeah.
So what have you...
June, isn't it?
So talk to me about, you talk about your network, obviously, and then the coach is obviously slightly more structured and more outcome-driven than perhaps just a general network. What have you got the most out of that so far? I think coaches are amazing. I think they're very undervalued. But you've got, like you mentioned, you've got to kind of find the perfect. It's almost like finding a partner. You've got to find the perfect
I think I've been
coach,
really
right?
fortunate in this instance. I think for me, it's this coach has taken so much content that when it comes to people and culture, HR, how complex it can be, and how you do feel like you need to solve everything. I know I've made that mistake that I feel like I need to solve everything, and she's been fantastic at simplifying things for me. I can get overwhelmed at times with, again, being in that silo role, and she's really, so whenever I've come to a coaching session, she said, "Oh, this is the issue. This is how we can simplify it."
Yeah.
I think that's a huge benefit.
Yeah, I think I'm with Steve on coaching. I think it's been a bit of a game changer for me personally. If nothing else, the fact that you're taking that time each month to reflect on you and go like, why did I think I had to solve everything this month? Like, what caused that?
Yeah.
So I guess you kind of mentioned you knew that you needed a coach, but it was the founders that did it. What made you think that you needed one? Like, what was that moment that you're like, oh, this is more than just asking my network. I need something else.
I think the more I evolve in my role, the more I don't know. It's that the thing. The more you learn, the more you realise you don't know. And I think that I could see the gaps in the business that needed that people and culture element to evolve. So it can't just come from me. I don't have the ideas yet. I don't have the experience yet. I need someone to give that, or at least have that conversation with. So I knew that I needed someone else, but it couldn't be the leaders of the current business because that's people. The culture's not their expertise. So I needed somebody to help me in my role to really add more value. And I've had I guess someone that I've sort of in my own friendship network that I've bounced things off over the last few years, but having that more formal arrangement has really helped me a lot.
Do you think people need both a mentor and a coach? Like you said, you've got a friend network. That's what I would consider a mentor. Would you say that you get completely different things from both, or it's nice to have a balanced view from both? Or?
I think having a balanced view is great, and that's one of the things that the coach has said to me. It's always good to have a number of mentors. Like I think I don't have one mentor in HR in life or anything. I think I learn from everybody. I wouldn't say I really have a formal mentor.
Yeah.
Because everyone will have a different perspective. Everyone's going to add different value. So I think that the benefit of a coach is just having someone that's a bit more structured. There's a more formal element to it. You're held more accountable for delivering on whatever goal you may have established in your previous sessions. Yeah. So it just makes you. I think having both is definitely beneficial.
Have you been a mentor?
Not formally, no.
Oh, I don't. Yeah. What? All right.
Explain
that.
I've back again when I was in the recruitment role, there was one individual that I helped grow, and I looked after. She was one of my direct reports. So, and I know over time she's now in her own role and doing brilliant in another business. But I think that she's probably someone that I certainly helped evolve her career.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah. It was a great experience, but I haven't really been in that standalone role the last few years. I haven't been in that position internally anyway.
The last question we're asking everyone is, who else would you like to hear from on the podcast?
Ooh.
You can't say Olga.
Although Olga said you.
Yeah, I heard that. I think, obviously in the people culture realm. Or?
Kind of anyone really. Anyone's career story that you think we could learn something
They
from.
need to be alive. Ideally in Australia, because no one can travel. That's about it.
We can dial them in.
Oh, we could dial them in.
It could be anyone, couldn't it?
It could be.
I think someone who'd be great to speak to is, I guess she's actually from my network that I've learned a fair bit from over the years. Her name's Kimberly Tunbridge, I think her surname is, but her name's Kim. I know her as Kim. She works at an RMA. She works in employee engagement, and she's actually a coach. She runs her own coaching business on the side.
You should get a coach. That would be good.
She's brilliant. She's so passionate about what she does. She lives and breathes employee engagement, and she loves coaching. She's sort of established that in the last year or so, and she gets a lot out of it herself. She'd be great. I think
Awesome.
she'd have
Cool.
listeners would love that. I think she's very, very passionate about what she does.
Cool.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you so much for today.
Nice. Thank you.
Thanks.
Great to chat.
Thanks.